So now let's talk about mixing harmonies. How do we make them better support the lead? Well, first, you have to know that harmonies are in a different register from the main line, and so they will often require a little bit different EQ than what you're doing with the other vocal tracks and the other vocal layers. So let's check out this first harmony and see what we've got. So right off the bat, I noticed this harmony is a lot lower, and so it's going to have a little bit more bass and also some lower mids. Now I want this harmony to add a little bit more low end to the overall vocal layering. That's why we have the harmony in the first place. But I also don't want it to muddy up the sound of the vocals either. So I'm going to find kind of a sweet spot to keep. If you could turn back time and start again. So I like the mids actually that it starts to add. I'm going to accent that a little bit more, but I'm also going to remove a little bit of the lower mids just to kind of carve out a little more space. If you could turn back time and start again. That helps the harmony jump out just a little bit more and support the lead vocal a little more, but without getting in the way. But it's important to know that you definitely don't want to overdo it with harmonies. They're more there to blend, and you'll notice that we actually have these harmonies pretty quiet because we're just trying to create a nice vocal layered sound, but we don't want the harmonies to steal the show. And the louder you have those harmonies, the more they're going to take over the melody. And you still want that original melody to be the most powerful thing that you walk away from with the song, but you want to sweeten it with the harmonies. So let's check out what this sounds like now that we've got a little bit of EQ carving on that harmony. If you could turn back time and start again. So I noticed that on the very last note, I felt like the harmony stuck out too much. So I'm going to actually automate that EQ off on the last note. If you could turn back time and start again. That sounds a lot better to me. If you could turn back time and start again. Okay, next let's talk about groups and routing. This is almost one of the most important things about vocal mixing, especially when you're dealing with a ton of tracks. The more tracks you have, the more complicated your mix becomes, and especially when you're using a lot of different inserts on different tracks, you're going to start getting a project that's really hard to manage. One easier way to manage it is by adding several groups and then assigning each group to a vocal type. So we're going to add just like 6 groups, and for the first one we'll call it vocal group, which is going to be VG main, vocal group double, vocal group harmony, and then vocal group BG for background. Then what we do is we go through the whole song and find the tracks that contribute to main parts. And I'm just holding Control to select each one. So now that I've found all the tracks that I consider to be main parts, I am going to hold Alt and Shift, and then I'm going to click right here where it says Master, and I'm going to route that to my group, which is VG main. Okay, now I'm going to go through and do the same thing, but for doubles. And since I don't know what is quite a double at the end, I'll just leave that out for now. And then I'll go through the song and find what's considered a harmony. And route those to the harmony group. And then I will do other things such as the gang vocals, which will go to the background tracks, as well as the woes. Yeah. So we haven't done every track, but just for the purpose of the concept, the purpose of demonstrating the concept, I am just going to do the main ones that we're worried about for now. So why are we doing this? This is to make it easy for us to do anything. This is going to make it a lot easier to automate and also to make changes. So in this chorus section, we have the doubles increasing in volume for this line here. But let's say that we think the doubles should be louder for the entire song. Well, one way would be to go in and modify all of your automation points and change the level of those. Or, now that you have everything routed to a couple of groups, you would be able to just go in to your VG dub group and change the overall volume of the doubles for the entire song. So by doing that, you make it a lot easier for yourself to make corrections. So if I'm playing this and I realize, oh, my doubles are too quiet, I can turn them up right here.
If you could turn back time and start again. If you could turn. If you could turn back time and start again.
Cool. Next, let's talk about advanced coloring and saturation. The first concept of coloring and saturation is using distortion as an EQ. This is really cool. Just like we added a track for our air, which sounds like this,
Could turn back time and
you can do the same thing with distortion. And distortion is great because you can use it to kind of increase various frequency ranges or harmonics in your vocal tracks. I'm going to show you a really simple way of doing it. So I'm actually going to just take this VG main track and duplicate it. So if you did have any inserts on your main vocal group, they would be copied. Next I'm going to name this VG main, just DIST, which stands for distortion. And then I'm going to add a distortion plugin. And then I'm going to open the edit channel window for the vocal main group and do a send to my distortion group. I'm going to turn it on and put it on 0, so it just sends basically a copy of the same signal to that group. And then I'm going to distort that group, and we're going to listen to it just to figure out how much distortion we want to add first.
if you could turn back time and start again.
Cool. Now, if you wanted to hear that channel by itself, you would need to solo this track, go into the sends and hit the pre-fader button, and then turn the volume down of this track.
If you could turn back time and stop.
Okay. Now we're going to undo that. And then I'm going to turn this all the way down and slowly rise it. And as I rise this group into volume, you're going to hear the mid-range change for the vocals.
If you could turn back time and start again.
Notice how the mid-range kind of starts to bloom a little bit more as the volume increases. The distortion plugin is adding harmonics and mid-range to our overall vocal sound as we bring it in.
If you could turn back time and start again.
Cool. Let's hear what that sounds like in the mix.
If you could turn back time and start again.
So I'm noticing now my vocals are starting to sound a lot louder than our original setting that we had when we started out. So we're going to just increase the volume of the song, which changes the point of relativity for the vocal mix.
If you could turn back time and start again.
And then we can take all of our vocal groups and send them to a final group, which we can call VG All, which stands for all vocals. And then this, when we export our vocal mix into our music mix project, we'll have one fader that controls the overall level of all the vocals, and we'll be able to easily balance the two together. Another way that you can do this, this collaring and saturation is with the tape simulator. And you can just kind of use that in place of a distortion plugin. Let's see if we have something in here that would work. We've got the Kramer tape stereo plugin. So same kind of deal. We need to hear this by itself. So I'm going to go in and turn the pre-fader on and then turn this down and solo this, and let's take a listen.
If you could turn back time and start again.
Now in this particular plugin, as you increase the flux, you're going to change the amount of saturation that's happening.
If you could turn back time and start again.
So I'm just going to, just for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to turn it up pretty hot, and then I'm going to actually increase, I'm going to change the speed, which will change how much treble is coming off.
If you could turn back time and start again.
You'll notice like 15 is a lot brighter than 7.5.
If you could turn back time and start again.
I'm going to use the darker one. Also, the bias can change the sound.
If you could turn back time and start again.
So I kind of like the nominal the bias. And I'm going to make sure that I don't have any wow or flutter or any noise. Pretty much just want those to be off. We're only using this for saturation, not modulation.
If you could turn back time and start again. If you could turn back time and start again.
So I like what that's doing, but it has a little bit too much low mid, so I'm going to go ahead and EQ that out.
If you could turn back time and start again.
Sweet. Now let's turn the pre-fader off for the send. Bring our vocal main level back up, and then use the fader to bring in the mix.
If you could turn back time and start again. If you could turn back time and start again.
I noticed that there's a little bit of some phasing occurring. So a lot of times what you can do is just add the same plugin to the original signal and bypass it.
If you could turn back time and start again.
If that doesn't work, you can leave the plugin on and then just make sure that it doesn't affect the signal. Or you could print both of these and then look at the waveforms and try to align them that way. And if those don't work, well, nothing's going to work if that doesn't work, so that's pretty much your last option.
If you could turn back time and start again.
Let's hear what we've got overall.
If you could turn back time and start again.
Cool. That's it for mixing.